Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm sorry this video is posted late. It's just that I had to do a project. Hopefully I'll be able to post it earlier tomorrow. Anyway, let's get started. So we have these two areas of interest. The area I showed yesterday in the MDR died. This is a new area. This will be the minor feature of the video. This will be the main feature. Anyway, let's get started. So this has a 20% chance of formation in the next 5 days. It's going to move westward at 10 to 15 miles an hour, and slow development is possible. This also has a 20% through the next 5 days, and environmental conditions will likely be more conductive as it gets into the Caribbean. And so yeah, nothing too much on the National Hurricane Center website right now, but it will probably take a couple days. This is going to be the main feature. This is going to be the minor feature. I'll tell you why. This is likely to go out to sea. There is no model or ensemble support for this affecting land. Well, this is pretty much going to affect land no matter what, since it's going into the Caribbean. This is getting much less model and ensemble support now. Well, this is gaining a lot of model and ensemble support. And this is, in the ensembles and model runs, this is being shown much weaker than this. Just quick run through. This will likely form, I think, and go out to sea. Pretty weak, though, and die quickly after a couple days. Like 5 days, probably. I believe, oh, by the way, I was just talking about this system, but I believe this Caribbean system will form, even if, and I'll get to the track for this. It's a little more complicated. I'll get to that in a bit. This is going to affect the land no matter what it forms or not, because it's in the Caribbean. Though I'm very confident it's going to form. Either way, it's likely going to bring gusty, strong wind gusts, sustained winds, and heavy rain, whether it forms or not. Though I'm very confident it's going to form. And since this track is a little more complicated, I'll get to that in a bit. Anyway, sorry about that big explanation, but let's move on now. And we have the sea surface temperatures. We have the 30 degrees in the Gulf, 31 degrees near Florida and the Bahamas, 30 and 29 degrees for much of the Caribbean, 27 and 28 for much of the MDR. So basically, the MDR system, what it's going to be dealing with is it's going to be going, of course, into the MDR in a couple of days. And then what pretty much all ensembles agree on is it's going to go out to sea, though it's going to hit some shear and not very favorable. So it's probably going to die and not become that strong based on current ensembles and models. Now, then we have the system that is going to go into the Caribbean, which the track is either likely going to go something like this, where it's going to go south of Dominican Republic and then go into Cuba and then go up to Florida like this. Or it's going to do a similar track, though it has more land interaction and it goes a little more west, but then it goes into the Gulf or either turns. It could also potentially, if it goes east enough, do this, and still then it could become either strong. Either way, I think this has a very good environment to form and become strong, and either way, this can affect land. Of course, these are the more likely tracks, especially these two based on current model runs and ensembles. Though ensembles more support this track, main models more support this track. This is the least likely track. Some ensembles are showing that, but probably not going to happen. But either way, whether this happens or not, it will affect land, and it's a favorable environment to become strong. I believe we'll be going with these tracks rather than this track. Either way, though, if it goes this way, it's going to affect Dominican Republic, Cuba, Bahamas. And if it goes to more likely tracks, it's going to affect Cuba, maybe some of the Bahamas, and the United States, which models mainly show Florida. You probably saw that on the cover of this video. Anyway, moving on. Let me X out of that. Just close some tabs. Anyway, the Nino 3.4 index is staying around the same to going down. It's currently negative 0.982. I think it went up a little or stayed the same. It's hard to tell what it's going to do next. Not too much to say there. let's start with the smaller feature first. Let's go a little bit into the future. And we do see the system coming off the coast. And as it moves north, it gets to around the 990s. But you see it goes from 944 to 977. It starts to weaken. This will come off the coast in around 5 days, according to this. But I don't think I told you this yet, but that is not even the main system. This is a new system. The area of interest in the Atlantic right now is this, and it kills it. I'm covering this because it's been some consistency in the models, but the MDR systems have just, they were being shown for a while, and now they're just being killed by the GFS. Let's now change to the Caribbean, where we go into the future. We see the invest, or not, it's not invest yet, but the area of interest. It goes north, it goes through Cuba, it weakens a bit, then it strengthens a lot. And around then, we're going to go into the Gulf region, which I got to get back to. See, we see it coming into the Gulf. It gets very strong, 936 millibars. It's 933, somewhere around here, landfall. And then it goes up north. And if we go into, not TFS, we got to go into the United States, go Ohio Valley, and we see this moving up. Now, of course, this part is very uncertain. All of it's very uncertain, but where it's going to go in the U.S. if this happens is a little more uncertain. Let's go back into the East Atlantic, and I'm going to show you the wind gusts, which we're going to use A50MB for, as I find this wind gust parameter very accurate and better for sustained winds. So, actually, yes, to show you guys a little more information, I'm going to show you the sustained winds, though I'm using wind gusts for sustained winds, as these measurements on pivotal weather, like I said a couple of videos ago, are very low, like lower than it should be. So, anyway, we do see about 68 kilometers an hour from this system, and then as it goes north, we see it getting to around 90 kilometers an hour. Forms sort of high, but I don't think it's organized enough to be a hurricane. Let's go into the A50MB wind height, which we're going to use for wind gusts. I find it pretty accurate for wind gusts. And I find this more important because wind gusts are always the highest winds. And for land impacts, especially, they affect more of an area. And then, of course, you also have the rain and flooding threat added. We do see it moving north, and we're getting around 70 knots. It doesn't seem... Now, you might be saying, well, you use the wind gust parameter for sustained winds, and, of course, the colors aren't as deep, signaling the winds are not as high, though that was in kilometers an hour, this is knots. 70 knots is much higher than 90 kilometers an hour, and, yeah. Let's go back to that. What we're using for sustained winds. And by the way, I use 10M sustained for on websites like Tropical Tidbits for sustained, because those measurements are correct, but these 10M wind sustained are not correct on this website. I find the wind gust parameter to be more accurate for wind gusts. The reason I chose pivotal weather was it goes a little more into detail. And I always use on all websites A50MB for wind gusts, because very accurate. Just like how 10M isn't exactly sustained winds, but on the wind gust parameter on this website, it's close enough. Same with A50 to wind gusts. Anyway, enough of that explanation. Whether you skipped it or not, let's continue. Where we do see the system starting to form, we're seeing those 92 kilometers an hour, 150 kilometers an hour, and then it moves north into the United States. Now, of course, most models show this going into the Gulf, especially around this Florida, Alabama region. Some show it going to Texas and stuff, but of course, most ensembles and the main models overall show it going into the Gulf. Even if it wouldn't go out to sea, of course, it would affect the Bahamas and still could become very strong and affect this area a lot. But most ensembles and main models do show it going into the Gulf, specifically this region of the Gulf. but we'll get to the ensembles later. But remember, this is in knots. So we see it passing over Cuba. We're starting to get those 80 and over knots in the Florida Keys, and then it goes into the southeast. Now let's go to regional, and we're going to go to the southeast U.S., which is the only region we're going to show, because I feel like the other regions are too uncertain. I want to give you guys the most accurate info. So let's go to what we're using for sustained winds. And I am not, for some of you who are wondering, I'm not using the wind gust parameter for sustained winds to make it seem higher. Just like I said, these parameters, it's usually downplay things. Moving on, we do see the system coming into the Gulf. We're seeing those 56 miles an hour nowadays because we're in the United States region down in the Florida. Then it moves up. We're seeing 59 in Leon County. We're seeing around 90, 100 on the Florida coast. Then it moves up. 850 MB winds, which moves north. We see a much bigger region than the 10 M wind gusts, which I'll show you comparison. Around the same, because this is also wind gust parameter, but again, where there's a sustained winds, there will be wind gusts. So yeah, we see it's moving up north, and we're seeing those around 100, 115, 130, possibly higher knots on wind gust on the Florida coast into Alabama. I'm sorry, I personally do wish they had higher than 80 on the scale. Now let's go to the ensembles. We are going to go to the tropical Atlantic, and we are going to go to the Spaghettios. So we're going in a little bit into the future, and we do see this system being shown. And then we start to see the Caribbean ensemble shown. Many ensembles show it going into Florida. Like one shows it going out to sea. Now, I wouldn't trust this ensemble here, and here's one reason. It does not show it forming till up here. It's way off. So some of these are just big outliers. Then we see systems going into the Bahamas. Those are the rare ensembles. But again, they still do affect the Bahamas pretty strong, which that is still land. I don't care if it's the U.S., Cuba, Bahamas. If it affects land and is stronger, I will have to focus on it more. I try to treat all tropical cyclones equally, but the ones that hit any land mass are more to be concerned about, whether it's Bahamas, the Caribbean countries, or the U.S. So anyway, we do see many of the ensembles going into Florida, Texas, Louisiana. Then these ensembles show it going out to sea. Now, you might be wondering why the GFS shows it much weaker if these are all going at sea. Well, if you don't see, there are many much smaller ensembles that show it much weaker, and then there's ensembles that do not show it, and you don't see them on here. I'm going to show you the cyclone locations. Now, we're going to skip to our 384. We do see many going into the Gulf. Some going into the Bahamas. That's still affecting land, but it's less likely that it'll go into the Bahamas than it would go into the Gulf. And then we do see the ensemble showing the other system going out to sea. Let's go back to these Spaghettios, the EPS cyclones. We're going to have to go to 12Z. Now, of course, EPS does show high support for the Gulf system. Some show going to the Bahamas, but definitely, like the GEFS and GFS models, mainly concentrated in the Gulf. And then going out to sea, the EPS shows a little more support for this system. Anyway, let's go back to the GEFS. And I'm going to go to the 850 MB, which is like wind gusts, still here as well. And also to give a good idea of where the center. So the ensembles mainly show around a hurricane going into Texas that bound to change, and then the much weaker systems not as organized here. And this Eastern Pacific system, I'm not covering the Eastern Pacific. I usually don't cover it as much as the Atlantic. I still cover it, not as much as the Atlantic, and it's not nearly as consistent. 12Z, like, for example, it wasn't showing it. Anyway, it's not an Eastern Pacific video. So moving on, we're going to go to the EPS now. We're going to go to the Tropical Atlantic. We're going to go to the A50MB wind control, and we're going to have to go to 12Z. And if we go a little bit into the future, we do see something in the Gulf. Not as much support here. Much more support for the out-to-sea systems. A Fujiwara effect, you see, which is like they're combining. I'm going more with the GFS here. Mainly because I do know that these will go through some rough environment. And there's still great ensemble support for the land system in both models, but not great support for the out-to-sea system in both ensembles and models. We'll go to the special charts, and we are going to go to the ECMWF Global Cyclones, where we do see the out-to-sea cyclone, of not as much, still some support for the Gulf/Bahamas, mainly Gulf, though. Hitting land system. Not as much support, but still support is there. But these are not the ensembles. These are just what the models are showing, the main model. Of course, we do see the out-to-sea system and that Gulf/Bahamas hitting land system, that area we see in the Caribbean. KMA shows it going into Louisiana, and we see that out-to-sea system, we see it starting to turn out to sea. Not going to affect the land, not going to affect Leeward Islands. Which, by the way, like I said, no matter whether it's islands or Bahamas, like Caribbean countries, USA, no matter what it is, I will focus on it more if it's land, because it is affecting people. EUCMET does not really show anything. And I am going to show, if I can... I'm guessing you guys might want to see the KMA. And hopefully you guys do. Which is the Korean KMA, the Korea KMA. Sometimes it's accurate. They do not have a wind gust. Oh, yes, they do. So, yeah, we do see the system. Then we see this system here starting to turn out to sea. But, of course... Now, this is like the only model showing it going this close to the Leeward Island before turning. Most models show it turning up. So while this could be pretty accurate, I would not trust this. It's probably not going to get that close. Possibly won't even be that strong. Anyway, I would like to show you guys before I leave, by that I mean end this video, the ECMWF and Canadian models. Which, let's go to 12Z. In which we go a little bit, and we don't really see anything except those MDR systems. Canadian model does not really show anything either. And I guess for ECMWF, go to 12Z, and we're going to go, and I'll show you the 850MB winds, which not, let's zoom in. So we're seeing 64 knot wind gusts, but of course these are not the main feature. It's mainly that Gulf system, which I'll keep you updated on. Invest IDL. Dead, not shown on the National Hurricane Center website anymore. And guys, if you forgot what it looked like, here is the National Hurricane Center graphic. It'll be updating at 2 a.m., 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and of course 8 p.m. Those are the updates for this graphic. And the Eastern Pacific, this probably won't happen. The chances went down, nothing in the Central Pacific. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a great night, guys. Bye.